Most young people spend the first decade of their working lives earning money, spending money, and assuming that saving will become easier later. It never does. And by the time they realize that, the most valuable financial asset they ever had is already gone and it cannot be bought back at any price. That asset is time. And the biggest money mistake young people make is not a bad investment, not overspending on lifestyle, and not failing to budget. It is simply waiting too long to start, and today I am going to show you exactly what that waiting costs, why it happens, and precisely what to do instead. Let us begin with the reality that most people in their 20s are living inside right now. You finish your education, you enter the workforce, and for the first time in your life, you have real income coming in. The instinct, and it is completely understandable, is to enjoy it. You have been living on very little for years, your friends are spending, the world is full of experiences to have, and retirement feels like something that exists in a completely different chapter of your life. Investing feels complicated, unnecessary, and frankly, a little boring compared to everything else you could be doing with your money. This thinking is not irresponsible, it is human. But it is also quietly one of the most financially damaging patterns that exists, and the reason it causes so much damage is not obvious until you understand one specific mathematical concept that changes how every financially successful person thinks about money. That concept is compound interest, and I want to explain it not with a textbook definition, but with the actual numbers that make it so powerful and so urgent. When you invest money and it generates a return, that return is then added to your original amount, and in the following period, you earn a return on the larger combined figure. This process repeats every year, every decade, and the longer it continues, the more dramatically the numbers accelerate. The growth is not linear, it is exponential. And the single most important variable in the entire equation is not how much you invest, it is how early you start. This is the mathematical reality that most young people have never been shown clearly, and it is the foundation of everything we are going to cover today. Here is the first principle every young person needs to understand about money. Starting at 22 is not slightly better than starting at 32, it is transformationally better, and the difference compounds with every year you delay. Consider two people who both invest €200 per month into a diversified index fund, earning an average annual return of 8%. The first person starts at age 22 and stops contributing entirely at age 32, just 10 years of investing. The second person starts at 32 and invests consistently every month until they retire at 65, that is 33 years of contributions. At retirement, the person who started at 22 and stopped early will have more money than the person who contributed for over 3 decades but started 10 years later. That outcome feels impossible until you understand compound interest, and once you understand it, you will never think about financial timing the same way again. The second principle is this: the money you do not invest in your 20s does not simply sit in a neutral position, it is actively costing you future wealth every single month it remains uninvested. This is a concept called opportunity cost, and it is one of the most important and most ignored ideas in personal finance. Every €100 that you spend on something unnecessary in your mid-20s is not just €100. At an 8% average annual return over 40 years, that €100 had the potential to become approximately €2,100 by retirement. You are not choosing between spending and saving, you are choosing between spending today and having significantly more tomorrow, and understanding that trade-off clearly is what separates financially intentional people from those who wonder where their money went. The third principle is that young people consistently overestimate how much they need to invest to build real wealth. The mathematical reality of compounding means that modest, consistent, early contributions produce remarkable results over time, and this means that the perceived barrier, not having enough money to invest seriously, is almost always lower than it appears. You do not need to earn a high salary to build a meaningful investment portfolio in your 20s. You need discipline, consistency, and time is the one ingredient that is exclusively available to young people in a way it never will be again. The fourth principle is that debt, particularly high-interest consumer debt, is the single most effective wealth destroyer in a young person's financial life. Every euro of credit card debt at 18 to 25% annual interest is working in exact opposition to the compounding growth we have been discussing. While your investments grow at 8%, your debt is shrinking your net worth at more than double that rate. Young people who carry revolving consumer debt into their 30s are not just paying interest, they are forfeiting years of compounding investment growth, and the combined effect of those two forces working simultaneously in opposite directions is one of the most reliable paths to financial stagnation. The fifth principle is that waiting for financial certainty before investing is a trap that keeps millions of young people permanently on the sideline. There will always be a reason to wait. The economic climate feels uncertain. You want to save a larger lump sum first. You want to understand investing better before you begin. You are planning a big expense next year. These reasons feel rational in the moment, but collectively they represent years of lost compounding that cannot be recovered. The right time to start investing is always earlier than feels comfortable, and the correct amount to start with is always whatever you can manage right now, not the ideal amount you plan to contribute eventually. The sixth principle is that financial identity, meaning how you see yourself in relation to money, is formed largely in your 20s and tends to persist for decades. Young people who build the habit of investing early, even in very small amounts, develop a financial identity as someone who manages money intentionally. That identity shapes every subsequent financial decision they make for the rest of their lives. Young people who defer financial responsibility, on the other hand, often carry that pattern of deferral into their 30s, 40s, and beyond, always planning to become serious about money at some undefined point in the future that never quite arrives.
Now let me make all of this concrete with two examples that illustrate exactly what is at stake. Imagine Sophia, a 24-year-old who graduates, starts working, and decides that investing can wait until she is more settled, better paid, and has a clearer sense of her long-term plans. She is not reckless with money. She saves occasionally, avoids serious debt, and lives reasonably. But she does not invest consistently, and by the time she turns 35, she has accumulated around 8,000 euros in savings earning minimal interest. At 35, she commits seriously and begins investing 400 euros per month in a global index fund. By 65, assuming an 8% average annual return, her portfolio is worth approximately 590,000 euros. That is a genuinely significant outcome, and it required real discipline over 30 years. Now imagine Marcus, who starts at 24 in the same financial position as Sophia. He reads about compound interest once, understands it clearly, and makes a quiet decision to invest 200 euros per month, half of what Sophia eventually invests, starting immediately. He never increases his contribution significantly. He simply stays consistent for 4 decades. By 65, Marcus's portfolio is worth approximately 700,000 euros more than Sophia's, despite contributing less per month, purely because he started 11 years earlier. The gap between those two outcomes, roughly 110,000 euros, was not produced by superior investment choices, higher income, or greater financial sophistication. It was produced entirely by time. This is not a hypothetical argument for investing. It is arithmetic, and it is exactly the kind of arithmetic that changes financial behavior permanently when people see it clearly for the first time. So let us talk about what you should actually do, starting today. The first step is to open an investment account this week, not this month, not when you feel ready this week. In most European countries, you have access to a broker account or a tax-advantaged savings and investment vehicle, and the process of opening one takes less than 30 minutes in most cases. The simple act of opening the account removes the psychological distance between you and investing and makes the next step dramatically easier. The second step is to set up an automatic monthly transfer from your bank account to your investment account on the day after your salary arrives. The amount matters far less than the automaticity. If you can start with 50 euros per month, start with 50. If you can manage 200, start with 200. The critical element is that the transfer happens without requiring a decision from you each month, because decisions create opportunities to delay, and delay is the enemy of compounding. The third step is to invest that money into a single broad, low-cost index fund that tracks the global stock market. Something like a fund tracking the MSCI World Index gives you exposure to over 1,500 companies across 23 developed countries in a single investment at an annual cost that is typically below 0.25%. You do not need to research individual stocks, follow financial news, or develop any specialized expertise. To do this effectively, simplicity and consistency are your two most important tools. The fourth step is to eliminate any high-interest consumer debt as a matter of absolute priority before you focus on building savings beyond your emergency fund. If you are carrying credit card debt at 20% interest, paying that off produces a guaranteed 20% return on your money, which no investment can reliably match. Clear that debt with urgency, build a 3-month emergency fund in a high-yield savings account, and then direct every available euro toward your investment account. The fifth step is to increase your monthly investment contribution by a fixed percentage, even just 10% every time your income increases. Most people absorb salary increases entirely into lifestyle spending. Financially intentional people redirect a meaningful portion of every income increase into investment before lifestyle inflation has a chance to consume it. This habit, maintained consistently over a working career, is one of the most reliable wealth-building behaviors that exists. The sixth step is to resist the urge to check your investment account frequently, especially in the early years when the balance is small and market fluctuations look large in percentage terms. The investment strategy we have described works over decades, not months, and the investors who consistently achieve the best long-term results are overwhelmingly those who invest consistently and then leave their portfolios alone to compound without interference. Here is the conclusion of everything we have covered today, stated as clearly as possible. The biggest money mistake young people make is treating time as though it is a renewable resource in the context of their finances. It is not every year that passes without investing is a year of compounding that cannot be recaptured, and the mathematics of that lost compounding is not a minor inconvenience, it is the difference between financial security and financial struggle in the second half of your life. You do not need to be wealthy to invest. You do not need to be an expert. You do not need perfect conditions, a fully optimized budget, or a complete understanding of financial markets. You need to start, you need to be consistent, and you need to begin as early as you possibly can. The people who build genuine, meaningful wealth over a lifetime are very rarely the highest earners or the most sophisticated investors. They are the ones who understood early that time was their greatest financial asset and who made the simple, unsexy, consistent decision to let compounding do what compounding does, which is to quietly turn modest contributions into life-changing amounts of money, given enough time. That knowledge is now yours. The next move belongs entirely to you. If this video changed how you think about money and time, please subscribe to this channel because we create content like this every single week. Share this video with a young person in your life who needs to hear this message, because the earlier they see these numbers, the more time they still have to act on them. And leave a comment below telling me at what age you wish someone had explained compound interest to you, because that answer tells you exactly how much this video matters.